All right, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects, and that's affirmations. And the reason why this is one of my favorites is because of how powerful of a principle this has been in my life, and not only my life, but also the lives of so many of the clients that I've worked with. And most people are probably familiar, at least with the term affirmations. And, oftentimes when working with a new client, I'll ask them, are you familiar with the term affirmations? Or what does an affirmation mean to you? And typically people will say something like, well, an affirmation is a positive statement about something that I want to have or something that I want to do or experience or become. And I mean, that's true. They're not wrong. Okay. In fact, the word affirmation, okay, is originally, it's a Latin origin. Okay. And it comes from the verb affirmare. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but something like that. Okay. My Latin is a little bit rusty. But essentially, what it means is to strengthen or make firm an idea or a belief. Okay, so that's the definition that you'll find when you look it up in the dictionary. But oftentimes, I'll ask a follow up question, which is, well, could an affirmation be negative? And typically, you'll see people be like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess it could be, yeah, but ideally, it would be positive, right? And that's true. I mean, ideally, an affirmation would be positive. Okay. But you got to remember here that when it comes to our pattern of thinking, okay, about 80% of our habitual thoughts are actually negative. And when it comes to our self talk or our pattern of thinking and our habit of thought, most of it is not very positive. 80% of our thoughts are typically ones of worry, stress, complaining, criticizing either ourselves or other people. And the truth is that there's probably some sort of an evolutionary reason as to why that is. And if you think about it, it probably fared us as a species to be constantly on the lookout for either problems or possible threats to our health and our well being. And you can see why something like that might have done us well in the past, constantly on the lookout for tigers in the bush or dangers around the next corner. But in today's day and age, the result has been that, well, most people struggle with their own sense of self talk and just kind of like that negative inner dialogue that chips away at our sense of either self esteem and certainly holds us back from taking action in some cases. You know what I mean? So I'm reminded of a recording by Earl Nightingale called The Strangest Secret. And I'll drop a link in the page below here. If you haven't listened to this, I highly suggest it. It's a fascinating recording. I absolutely love Earl Nightingale. And this is one that I've listened to hundreds of times by now at this point, maybe even more. Okay. But he has this one recording that's called The Strangest Secret. And I'm going to kind of ruin it for you here. But he says that thousands of philosophers, gurus, wise men, and prophets have all been echoing this same sentiment throughout centuries, okay? And yet it somehow still remains a secret. And that's where he gets the name, The Strangest Secret. But the strangest secret, according to Earl Nightingale, is you become what you think about. You become what you think about. And I took the liberty of finding some notable people throughout history that have shared that sentiment and said it in slightly different ways. Okay, Marcus Aurelius, for one, was a ancient Roman emperor and actually kind of a somewhat of a Stoic philosopher. Okay, and Marcus Aurelius, he says that a man's life is what his thoughts make of it. So same sort of idea, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson, he says that a man is what he thinks about all day long. Okay. Buddha, all right, who doesn't love Buddha, says that what you think, you become. True. All right. In the Bible, it says that as he thinks in his heart, so he is. Okay. James Allen, another notable author, says that a man is literally what he thinks about, his character being the complete sum of all of his thoughts. All right. He also goes on to say that just as an oak tree stems from an acorn, so do all of our actions stem from our thoughts. Okay. Kind of a slightly more poetic way of saying that, but I like the imagery, right? Okay. Napoleon Hill, who's of course the author of Think and Grow Rich, he says that every man is what he is because of the dominating thoughts which he allows to occupy his mind. It's true. Norman Vincent Peale says that if you think in negative terms, you'll get negative results. But if you think in positive terms, you'll get positive results. And so it stands to reason that if a person is thinking of a worthwhile goal, they'll achieve it. Now, this recording and this idea is so powerful and yet so easily overlooked, okay? But if that's true, and you could probably stand to reason that, well, if so many wise men, prophets, philosophers, and successful people throughout history have been saying that it is, well, I would probably tend to agree with them. I guess the only question is, well, what the heck am I thinking about? You know, am I thinking about success or failure? Am I thinking about health or illness? Fear or faith? Wealth or poverty? Love or hate? Okay. And I think that's a good question. And one thing that I really had to come around to the idea or understanding was that any idea or any thought that's held in the mind and impressed upon the subconscious with repetition and emotion will one day eventually become a reality. All right. Now I'll say this again because this is really powerful. Okay. But any idea that's held in the mind and impressed upon the subconscious with repetition and emotion must, by law, reveal itself in the outside world, in your physical surroundings, in your material reality. Okay. And to help articulate this or illustrate this, I'm calling on my good friend, the Mr. Stickman here. Okay. And so I'll say this one more time, but any idea that's consciously held in the mind and impressed upon the subconscious with repetition and emotion must, by law, reveal itself in your outside world or in your results. Okay? That's how the flow of thought energy works. Okay? This is how thought energy moves through a human being. All right? But here's the thing, okay? And this is helpful to understand that your conscious thinking mind, okay, it can do three things. Okay, it can accept ideas, it can reject ideas, and it can originate ideas. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, you and I can have a conversation and, you know, we might be able to get into it and you think, yeah, you know, hey, that's a good point. And I totally believe that, or I can see some truth to that. And you can accept the idea. Okay. Alternatively, you and I might have a bit of a conversation or a debate, and you might think to yourself, man, this Matt guy, he's so full of BS. Like, I don't buy a word this guy's saying. All right. You might think that, and that would be your right to do so. Okay. And you can actually reject the idea. So you can kick that out of here. Okay. You won't accept it. The third thing that the conscious thinking mind can do is it can originate an idea. So, I mean, if I asked you to, or I put you on the spot and said, tell me a story about a white rabbit that's riding a bicycle, well, you could probably come up with some sort of little anecdote about a rabbit and a bike, okay? But here's where it gets interesting. Okay. That's that your subconscious mind has no ability to reject ideas. Okay. The subconscious mind cannot reject ideas, it can only accept ideas. In other words, any idea that is accepted by the subconscious mind, okay, must be expressed in your actions and therefore produce a result in your physical material world. Okay. Your subconscious mind cannot reject ideas. It also can't originate ideas. It can only accept ideas. Okay. Now, it's oftentimes referred to or compared to like fertile soil. All right. And again, this is back in the recording, and I would highly suggest that you listen to The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. But he says that your subconscious mind is like fertile soil in the sense that the soil doesn't care what you plant in it. It will just return to you anything that you plant. So, if you were to plant a seed of corn in the ground, well, what are you going to get? Well, corn, of course. And if you were to plant a seed of wheat in the ground, what are you going to get? Well, obviously wheat, right? And if you planted corn, what's the likelihood that you get wheat? Well, none at all whatsoever, right? Zero. Okay. Well, it's the same with our subconscious mind. Okay. And if you're planting seeds of positivity, prosperity, success, happiness, and abundance, well, you're going to get positivity, prosperity, success, happiness, and abundance. But if you're planting seeds of worry, doubt, fear, stress, or anxiety, well, needless to say, you're going to get fear, doubt, worry, stress, and anxiety. That will be your experience. Okay. Now, this is really interesting, but your subconscious mind, it will just believe anything and everything that you tell it. Okay. Your subconscious mind, it just takes you at face value. Okay. And it cannot differentiate between true or false. Okay. It can't tell the difference between whether or not something's right or wrong. Okay. Real or imagined. But it also can't tell the difference between a joke and whether or not you're serious. And this is why it's so important to never make a joke at your own expense. And I know some people who, in an effort to try to get a laugh, will sometimes put themselves down or be the butt end of their own jokes. Okay. And I always suggest to them that they should stop doing that. And the reason is because anytime you put yourself down or say a negative statement about yourself, even if it's a joke, okay, there's a part of you that's listening. And that part of you is your subconscious mind. Okay. So sometimes people will say things negative about themselves. And my usual response to that is, hey, don't talk about my friend like that. And I genuinely mean that. Okay. But here's another little interesting point is that your subconscious mind, it also cannot tell the difference between a positive and a negative. And what I mean by that is like your mind does not register the negative portion of a sentence or a phrase. And so to illustrate that, what I mean is like, if I said to you, like, don't think about a pink elephant, what pops into your head? Well, probably an image or a picture of a pink elephant, right? It's like, but no, I said don't think about a pink elephant. Okay, well, of course, your mind, it can't register or it doesn't register the do not portion of it. It just focuses on the pink elephant. And so that's the image that gets planted in your mind. Okay. Now, this is a philosophy or a principle that is taught in all sorts of different scenarios, but especially in elite level sports like downhill skiing, where rather than thinking or saying to themselves, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, they just say to themselves, follow the snow, follow the path, follow the snow. Okay. Or with driver's ed. Well, it's been a little while since I was in driver's ed class now, but I remember back in the day that, growing up in Saskatchewan, winter times can be pretty harsh and pretty treacherous there. And the roads can get pretty slippery. And if by chance you start to lose control of your vehicle, okay, they taught us that to look where you want to go, right? Don't try to focus on the power pole that you're trying to avoid because, well, where are you going to end up? You'll be in the ditch, probably meeting that power pole. Okay. So the principle, when it comes to affirmations or when it comes to mindset, when it comes to the power of our thoughts, is the same thing applies. That look where you want to go, okay, and speak to what you want to experience. Now, Mother Teresa is an interesting example of this, but Mother Teresa actually famously said she would never attend an anti-war rally. And you think, what? Mother Teresa? What? You're not going to attend an anti-war rally? What's up with that? Okay. She went on to say that if you throw a pro-peace rally, I'll be there. But as long as you're giving your energy and your attention to war, that's all you're going to produce is more war. And the reason is because while your attention, where your attention goes, energy flows. And so if you're giving your conscious thought energy to things that you don't want, what you're doing is you're inadvertently creating more of what you don't want. All right. So look where you want to go. Now, there's actually a really interesting story about this, and I was hoping this would play. No, it doesn't, eh? Shoot. I will also attach a link to a short video here, okay? But this video is about a man named Billy Buckner. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Billy Buckner is he's a great baseball player, okay, who played for the Boston Red Sox, right? He was a first baseman. And back in I believe it was the 1986, Billy Buckner and the Boston Red Sox were playing against the New York Mets for the World Series. Okay. And a couple of days before the World Series started, a reporter came up to Billy Buckner and stuck a microphone in his face and said, "Hey, Billy, how does it feel to be playing for the World Series?" And Billy Buckner said, "Oh, this is an absolute dream come true. This is what we dream about since the time we're 5 years old playing baseball in the sandlot out back. Of course, the dream would be to hit a home run and to win the World Series. But the nightmare would be to allow a ground ball between your legs and have the scoring run cost you and your team the World Series." And you think, oh no. Billy, you didn't just say that, did you? Well, a few days later, guess what happened? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Is a routine ground ball comes to Billy Buckner at first base, goes between his legs, and the scoring run cost Billy Buckner and the Boston Red Sox the 1986 World Series. And if that story sounds familiar, it's probably because it's still played on TSN and Sportsnet as one of the biggest bloopers of all time. And you can actually look it up and you can find that interview where he says that. But it just goes to show the importance of not talking about and speaking about things that you don't want to see happen. Okay. And there's a reason behind that. And thanks to the scientific research that was done by this man, Mr. Trevor Moawad, who is a mindset coach who has worked specifically with professional athletes and teams in the NFL, and I believe the NBA also, but NFL for sure. They did some research into this idea, and they were really fascinated with this idea of, positive thinking and the power of our thoughts. And they found that, yes, indeed, are just like Earl Nightingale and just like these philosophers had discovered that, yes, our thoughts are powerful, okay? But they found that the words that we speak are actually 10 times more powerful than that, Okay. And so when we verbalize things, we're actually amplifying the power of our thought. But when we speak negativity or negatively about ourselves or a situation, okay, what we're doing is we're amplifying that by another multitude of 4 to 7x. Okay. So when you think about like Billy Buckner here, you might ask, well, did simply him saying that, was it like kind of like praying to some deity that made it happen? Well, I mean, depending on your beliefs, maybe, but maybe not. But based on what we know about the power of our thoughts and the power of our language, we know that by him verbalizing that increased the likelihood of that happening by 40 to 70%. Okay. So when he thought that, or when he said that out loud, that planted the seed in his mind and increased the likelihood of that event happening by 40 to 70%. Even though that's not something that he wanted to happen. Okay. He was focusing on that and increased the chances of that being his experience. So one of the biggest principles that Trevor Moawad talks about is that sometimes it can be hard to shift from a habit or a pattern of negative thinking, like a lot of us are sometimes trapped in, to a positive mindset or into positive statements. And he said that one of the most powerful things that you can do, and one of the first things that he gets his NFL players and NBA players to do, is just to stop saying stupid shit out loud. Like, if you're gonna think it, okay, that's one thing. You can't always control the thoughts that pop into your head. Okay. Sometimes they're called ants, like automatic negative thoughts. Okay. Ants, A-N-T, ants, automatic negative thoughts. You can't always control those little ants or those automatic negative thoughts that pop up into your head, right? But you can absolutely learn to control what you say. And one of the most powerful things that you can do is just to stop talking negatively about stupid shit or about stuff that you don't want to experience. All right. So more on affirmations in the next video. But it's a great place to start. Right on.